It doesn't matter whether you are a small startup, with this POC running live on the cloud, or you are a big scalable, application with maybe 10,000 instances of your pods running on Kubernetes. Everyone needs observability, because whether you are small or you are big, you want a good customer experience. And this is what observability really helps us provide. I believe observability is a mission critical thing that every small startup to every enterprise must have. So, what are some benefits of Grafana? Grafana is a very complete solution for you. Grafana allows you to scale horizontally so that you have infinite scaling possibility. Grafana allows you for optimal troubleshooting, alerting. It has very complete dashboards which you can customize. Grafana has all of these plugins, a very big library of plugins to support the 6 pillars of observability, all 6 of them. Grafana also ensures that your data is never lost. Your storage could be in an S3 backend, or you could even use MinIO, which is an open source S3 alternative. So your data is also never lost, and it is resilient. Secondly, Grafana's most important feature, which probably ELK lacks, not probably, surely ELK does not have that solution, is that the storage and the computation are decoupled. So even if your compute layer fails, your storage is still working, and even the storage layer is resilient in itself. It ensures your data is never lost. So you will be always up and running with Grafana. So now let's come to the architecture of a Grafana setup. Alright, so the traces and the metrics are collected via an open telemetry collector. And the open telemetry ecosystem is still evolving. Open telemetry ships with SDKs for all popular programming languages. Some are a little bit more mature than the others. Okay, so effectively, once your apps, your jobs, and all these other events that are happening in a system start sending these open telemetry events, right? Then there's an open telemetry collector which collects those events, and then it forwards those events to whichever observability backend you are using. Now for the logs as well, there's a fluent bit or a fluent D which has been set up, and that captures your logs. There you can write transformation of your logs as well. For example, if it's a legacy application in which you cannot embed right now an open telemetry SDK, alright, you don't want to touch that application, it's been running since many years. So in that case, simply you read from the output the files to which it's writing the log. FluentD does that, and then within FluentD or FluentBit you can write your transformers and transform that log into an open telemetry compliant log, and then now you're pushing your data out in open telemetry format to your backends, and you simply need to configure your endpoints for the same. Coming to Grafana, what is the stack of Grafana? Alright, so firstly, for the storage layer, you can either have S3 or any other buckets which are provided by cloud providers, storage system, or you can use MinIO, like I said, which is an open source, storage system just like S3. So Grafana also ships with MinIO, and it's a great product. We've used it, MinIO, and runs on Kubernetes cluster. It's very scalable as well, so it never goes down, okay, if you configure it properly. Then this is on the storage part. Now we've talked about storage using MinIO, a scalable storage solution. So that storage part is now done. Now let's talk about metrics. All right, so metrics in Grafana stack. Okay, originally, we used to use Prometheus, which is an amazing time series database that people have used since generations now, of keeping the metrics of your system, right? And then visualizing them in your Grafana dashboard. Okay, but now comes Mimir, which was launched in 2022 by Grafana Labs. This Mimir is basically an infinitely scalable, theoretically speaking, infinitely scalable Kubernetes based setup. You can scrape your data using Prometheus from your applications, or you could have a Grafana agent or another agent, right, which collects your metrics. From there, you send this metrics data to Mimir, and Mimir can really scale awesomely and perform really well. So Mimir is then used in this proposed architecture for the metrics part of your observability setup along with Prometheus. After that comes Tempo. So tempo is for traces, like we talked about it. So a trace spans across multiple requests. Then within every single request to a particular microservice, that span, within every span are children spans. So for example, it called a first database call, second database call, then it called an API. These are three spans. Or it called a function. You created a span. You can create a span for your functions calls also, computing. And within that function, three more functions would call. They can be child spans as well. So all of this tracing is handled in Grafana stack by Tempo. So Tempo is again an open source solution, a plugin which comes and sits in the Grafana stack, and it keeps track of all your traces. Okay, so the last part which is there is for your logs, right? So in the logs, you use Loki. Loki is again Kubernetes based like Mimir, effectively like Minio. So Loki basically gets the logs from your FluentD exporter. All right, logs are taken in by Loki, okay, and they have correlation metrics, trace ID and span ID with your traces also. And then Loki basically, indexes these logs in a searchable way, in an efficient searchable way, and compacts those logs and stores them in your Minio cluster for your storage. So Mimir, then comes second Tempo, and the third is Loki. Then there is also Sentry, which is for your exceptions. That's another plugin within Grafana. Then there's also Flare, which is for your profiling of your functions. And then Grafana also has a very amazing alerting system called Grafana On Call, which is again free and open source. So all of these together provide you a complete open source, self-hosted, scalable, resilient, and decoupled storage and computation decoupled, very cost-effective solution for your observability setup. Your log size is very compact, your storage size is very compact, so you save on your disk space, and also the computation is very effective and it can scale based on needs. Hence, it is very cost effective. And we have done some profiling on the Grafana stack. We've done profiling of logs and sent like 30 Mbps of logs in a second. And Loki was able to scale very well with Minio based cluster. And with very less resources, we are able to run a very scalable system. Imagine 30 Mbps per second. We even did till 50 Mbps per second. So hence, Grafana is an amazing alternative for all of you considering having an observability in place. We would really recommend adopting Grafana for a long-term advantage. Compared to other solutions like one, ELK is the other open source, sort of open source solution. But ELK's problem is that ELK number one, Elasticsearch was not made for observability. Okay. The storage size really inflates. It's a huge storage size you need with ELK. Second problem is it's very complex to manage. The whole ELK setup, Elasticsearch, is more complex to manage than Grafana stack. All right, and you end up with lots of issues with Elasticsearch as well at scale. So especially the biggest issue is that the storage and the compute is coupled. All right, this is a big drawback of ELK structure, the coupling of storage and compute, and as well it's difficult to manage, to be honest, and it can be very expensive for you. It consumes more storage, it consumes more CPU, it consumes more RAM. All right, then come the other solutions like Datadog and Splunk, commercial solutions. They are awesome solutions and they work great for many people, right? But those solutions are again complex pricing based solutions, and they can really become very, very costly over time. You won't be able to predict your costs over time with them, right? So with Grafana you have very predictable costing, and in any case you cannot or do not wish to right now set up Grafana on your own premise, you can also use Grafana on cloud. It has a freemium plan, and Grafana on cloud is very cost effective. In fact, Grafana on cloud also allows you machine learning capabilities. That's something that's not there in the open source solution yet, but Grafana on cloud provides you machine learning on top of your observability data as well, which has some amazing features for you to check out. So yes, my friends, this is about observability. In this talk we covered number one, why we need observability. What does observability mean? What are the 6 pillars of observability? Why we need observability? We then talked of different alternatives. We talked of the open telemetry standard, and then we also talked about an open source alternative using Grafana stack and compared it with ELK and other alternatives in the ecosystem out there as well. And we also talked about some important aspects of your observability setup you need to keep in mind, like resiliency, scalability, cost effectiveness, and also decoupling of your storage with compute. And in the end we also showed you some profiling benchmarks of Loki and MinIO that we ran ourselves. So why don't you now go ahead and find out more about observability. Thank you very much for tuning into this podcast. And if you need any help with observability setup, go reach out to the community online. You can also reach out to us on our Discord channel of Godspeed, and we can have a discussion, or just contact us directly through our website as well. We are happy to answer any questions just on a friendly basis too. Observability, my friends, is really important. It doesn't matter whether you are a small startup with this POC running live on the cloud, or you are a big scalable application with maybe 10,000 instances of your pods running on Kubernetes. Everyone needs observability, because whether you are small or you are big, you want a good customer experience, and this is what observability really helps us provide. I believe observability is a mission critical thing that every small startup to every enterprise must have. Thank you very much. Have a great time observing everything.